Righty. Well, thank you so much for joining us, guys. My name is Jason, and I'm joined really gratefully today by with Paul Ware. Paul's from sort of rural New South Wales. Would you say, Paul?
Outskirts of the rural, yeah.
Outskirts of rural, yeah.
Semi-rural.
Yeah. Paul has just completed the 10-week challenge, and he's kindly agreed to just join me for a casual chat today. Also, just to get a little bit of feedback from myself and the team as to sort of what you enjoyed, Paul, about the 10-week challenge, and anything that you feel like we can do better, and what what's next. So, my first question, Paul, is how did you first find out about PD Warrior and the 10-week challenge?
Well, when I was diagnosed with Parkinson, I went to a neurologist, but he didn't mention anything about PD Warrior. He just gave me tablets. And then we went to a sports physiologist, and they said, "Have you heard of PD Warrior?" And we said, my wife and I said, no, we hadn't heard of it. And so we looked into it, and we felt it would be a way to try and help myself with the Parkinson.
Yeah, great.
Practice.
Yeah, a bit more, exactly. A bit more of an active approach. Yeah, I like that, and that's exactly what we try to be. So when were you first diagnosed, Paul?
About 10 years ago, when I was 60, 8 years ago. Yeah.
And then when did you first start your sort of involvement with PD Warrior?
It'd be over a year now.
Yep.
Yeah. So I started doing your exercise videos.
Yep.
And then heard about the 10-week challenge. I started it, but then we went on holidays, and then I started back up again, just the recent one, and I've just completed the 10 weeks now.
Beautiful. So you had a little crack at it, got a little bit derailed with travel, and then came back and went through the whole thing.
That's the beauty of it. You can start again, with the exercise videos.
Yeah, exactly, and that's something I encourage everyone to do. We're getting a little bit ahead of our chat now, but I encourage everyone, do a 10-week challenge once a year, or maybe once every 18 months to give you that kickstart. And as you said, you can be flexible with it to a degree, but with the 10-week challenge, you really want to kind of take the bull by the horns and give it a good go. What was it that motivated you to do the 10-week challenge, and did you have any goals, Paul, around sort of what you wanted to achieve in those 10 weeks?
Well, I want to try, and what motivated me to do the 10-week challenge is that you could be able, you feel like you're in control, with the medication and that. You just take medication, that's it. When you do the 10-week challenge, the harder you put in, the better it's going to be for you. So I do that and do other exercises. And I found that the 10-week challenge does help me with my Parkinson's, especially at night.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, so I love that answer. I mean, that's the big part of what we've tried to do is give back the control, and I think that's what a lot of people say to me, especially newly diagnosed. So I feel like I've lost control. I've been hit with this big news, this diagnosis. Sometimes the neurologist or GP or specialist, will kind of not give you a whole lot of guidance as to what you can do. It's kind of, here, take this medication and do the best you can. So having a bit of that control and knowing that you are in the driver's seat to a degree of what of how this Parkinson's journey goes. Really nice. So how has it helped you? You touched on it, sort of feeling like it's helped you at night. How is that? Could you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, when the medication wears off at night time, I tend to freeze, and so it's hard to walk. But with the PD Warrior, there's the exaggerated steps and the active pause. So they help me walk around at night, especially when you need to go to the toilet at all hours of the night.
Yep.
It's generally helping me to be able to walk around and navigate the unit we're in.
Yeah, nice one. And that's again music to my ears, Paul, because I really am a big advocate for the idea of not thinking about your exercise as something that you kind of do and then you wipe your hands of it and you go, oh, I've done my PD work for the day, I'll go back to my normal way of moving. I love it when I hear people that are actually incorporating the principles behind the exercises to their walking or to their activities of daily living, and the fact that that's helped you in an area where you've already, that you had some sticking points before. That's really good to hear. So going back to the structure of the 10-week challenge, how did you find sort of working your way through it? Was it challenging to keep up with that kind of daily demand of the exercises, or how did you manage?
No, yes, it was challenging to keep up, but then you just got to make time. some of the exercises I couldn't master like crazy, but the other ones you get on and you get in with it and you pick it up and you get better as time goes. So I thought the structure of it, the 10-week challenge that Melissa did, was really good.
Yeah, good to hear. And I think that's the beauty of it, right? We don't want you to actually master an exercise, because as soon as you mastered it, and as soon as that exercise and movement becomes a little bit automatic, and you can kind of be thinking about what's for dinner rather than being in there and in that moment, then we're losing some of the benefits. So when you do, and this is another thing I always try and push, is if you feel like you've mastered an exercise, or you feel like the challenge degree of an exercise is starting to come down, then it's time for you to move the goalposts. Either, choose a different exercise or progress it, mix it up. Exactly. And it doesn't take much, like I use the example of over the river. People that have been doing that for years and years, I just get them to do that in backwards order, and all of a sudden it's a super challenging exercise. You're trying to think about the sequence a little bit more. So no, that's great to hear. And mate, if you've seen those videos, you could see that I still didn't and still haven't mastered crazy. Hopefully it provides a little bit of comfort to everyone when you watch my feet in those videos, tripping over myself and struggling. So not an easy one. It's one that always comes up that people find challenging. So that's really good. So challenging to keep up with the routine, but really good to hear. And I think that can be a nice motivator for people that are feeling maybe a little bit frustrated early on in the challenge, is that it sounds simple, but is the more you do and the more you practice, that you will get better at it. And that's the challenge at first, isn't it, Paul? You're learning 10 new exercises from the get-go, potentially, and you're trying to learn a new way of moving at the same time. So once the choreography of those exercises start to become a little bit more second nature and somewhat more automatic, it allows you to start putting more effort into the actual, quality of your movement, and start thinking about your self-coaching and the amplitude and those sorts of things. Did you find that sort of transition happened as you went as well? You had a little bit more resources, I guess, to put into the effort of the exercise?
Yeah. I found that the more you did it, the not better you became, but you were aware of high knees and active pauses, straight fingers, because it's hard to do it all. And then then you got to think, oh, I've got to remember this, I've got to remember that. So the more you do it, the more it becomes. Not
exactly.
easier.
Yeah, and I think what you're touching on there is kind of breaking it down a little bit, isn't it? Because it is really overwhelming. The 10-week challenge as a whole is quite overwhelming when you first jump into it. So, okay, where do I start? I've got these exercise videos, got these educational webinars. I've got to be doing my home exercise program. But once you're in and you sort of understand the concepts, and hopefully you're testament to that as well, that you kind of find your rhythm into it, and you can break down what you need to do a little bit easier as you go. Lovely. Okay, so you mentioned sort of you've been able to incorporate it into the walking in terms of the active pause and the exaggeration. Did you notice any other improvements throughout, or I guess at the end of your 10-week challenge?
I think my balance is better too because of it, doing the penguin walk and box step. Yeah, I think my walk, just general well-being and feeling better has improved. You feel like you're in control of your life rather than the Parkinson being in control of you.
Yeah, great. Well said. We'll put that on the banner, Paul. That was beautifully put. But you're right. And I think you're not the only one that's come to me, and it's probably one of the more common answers I get when I ask people, how do you feel now compared to at the start of the 10-week challenge? Sometimes it's a little bit of a hard. There's not necessarily something tangible that you can put your finger on as well. I'm better at this, or I've improved here. General feeling of well-being, and maybe potentially just moving better and moving with more control. And then there's the psychological element as well. It's okay, well, I feel like I've actually got a bit of control here. That goes a long way as well, and we can't underestimate that. And it's hard to quantify that as well. So it's good to hear that it's made that big of a difference, whether it's something that we can see or something that you yourself can just feel, or maybe family members, friends notice the way you move as well as another one. But yeah, it's a really good point. Sometimes it doesn't have to be a tangible, specific improvement. Sometimes it's just that feeling of control.
Well, this feeling of being positive. It's a positive mental attitude rather than being negative about everything. I can't do this, I can't do that. You go, well, I'll give it a try, and it changes your whole outlook on life when you've got a positive attitude rather than a negative attitude.
Absolutely, yeah. Well put, Paul. And I think that's what we try and do in the 10 weeks, isn't it? Is kind of recalibrate a little bit. Parkinson's has this way of over time changing the way you move and
Yeah.
just bit by bit potentially taking things away that maybe you used to do or change the
Yeah.
way you used to do things, and then all of a sudden that becomes your default. And what we try and do is recalibrate your brain a little bit and go, actually, I've got all this extra potential that I can put into this exercise. I've got all this extra power and amplitude that I can deliver in these movements. So having that translate into the way you just generally feel and the way you move around is the end goal, and that's beautiful to hear, Paul. That's really nice.
Okay.
Next steps for you, Paul. What are your new goals? So you've come through the 10-week challenge. How are you going to attack this next phase?
Well, I become a member of the PD Warrior, whatever it's a club or committee.
Yeah, PD Warrior
I
Plus.
get access I get access to your videos, and so I'll be continuing with those and try to keep as active as I can, doing other things, bike riding, going to sports physiologist. But the important thing is keeping up with the PD Warrior.
Yeah,
Keep
good
that
stuff.
going.
Lovely. That's great to hear. And I meant to ask you that before. What's your current exercise routine going to look like now? Not only PD Warrior, but what else are you trying to fit into your routine?
Well, as I said, I've got an e-bike, so I ride around the streets. That's good for the balance. I think going to a sports physiologist, that's good for the body weights. Where we live, there's a gym, so
Yep.
we go to the gym with my wife. Yeah, just keep as active as possible.
And sounds like keeping a bit of variety up as well, which is a really important thing, and not only for your engagement and motivation and just the enjoyment of it, but really important for you physically and from a neuroplasticity point of view. Really important that we don't come out of the 10-week challenge and then just continue doing that same thing every day. First of all, that's really hard to maintain. Just it's physically demanding. But B, if we do the same thing every day, the brain stops having to guess and we start, losing those adaptations. So I think you've touched on two really important things that I always encourage people to develop and progress into post 10-week challenge. And that's some cardio training where you're working on your fitness. And if you can incorporate some, intervals and some hills and things like that, then we're getting the best of both worlds. And then the other thing you mentioned is a little more strength work as well. We need to stay strong. More and more research around the role that strength training and resistance training can play in symptom management and potentially even in disease modification. And then not only on that side of the coin, but the stronger you are, the better you perform these PD Warrior exercises, and then you're getting more out of that as well. So that sounded like you've got a good plan ahead. Do you have any goals, Paul? What are we going to try, and have you sort of penciled in something specific or some specific goals, or is it more around just keeping going, keeping that activity up?
I'm trying to keep the Parkinson's disease from getting worse than what it is. So I think the more I can contribute, the longer I'm going to stay healthy as much as I can. If you just give in to it, it's not going to be the right thing to do.
Yep.
Long-term goals is to do travel again, overseas travel. Like at the moment, I probably wouldn't get on a plane. So long-term goals is to try and reclaim some of my life back again.
Yeah, love it, and that's a big part of what we do. In our consultations, or if someone's tied up with online coaching sessions with myself, one of the coaches, is find those goals and finding those really meaningful goals, like you've mentioned there. Get your life back, get back to travel, and then you can break down the smaller goals as a result of that. But that's the sort of stuff that gets you motivated and get you out of bed. When you're at week 6 and week 7 is going, well, I got to keep committing to this because I want to get out there and start, doing more travel. So that sounds great, Paul. We look forward to tracking your progress and seeing how you go and continue moving towards that confidence level, I guess, and improve the confidence so you can get back out there and travel. Last question I have for you, Paul, was, I guess, do you have any advice for other people that we're, I guess, first of all, contemplating taking on the 10-week challenge, and
Yep.
then second follow-up question is any advice to people that have signed up in terms of how to manage it once you're in there, once you're in the thick of it.
For people that are thinking about doing it, they could get onto YouTube and you can watch your videos for free there, and you could give them a go and see if you like it or not. That's how I basically started.
Yep.
And then when I found that it worked, I signed up. And the amount of money that it costs you to sign up is minuscule compared to how much you have to pay to go and see a neurologist or whatever. So it's money well worth spent. And if you're in it and you're finding it a bit hard to continue, it's the more you put in, the more you're going to get back. So it's up to you whether you're successful or not, I think.
Yeah, really good advice, Paul. I like that, and I think you touched on it at the start. you had a crack at the 10-week challenge, and then when we had to go away, so you came back and then had another crack, and there's nothing wrong with that. Some people, and it happens quite often, kind of have that mindset of, okay, I'm ready to take on this big commitment, and then a couple of weeks in, I find, you know what, I haven't put the things in place yet. I might need to just press pause on this, get a few things in order, prioritize the exercise, because you really do, don't you? In the 10-week challenge, it's hard going. Like I've done it because I had to make sure that I could keep up, and I wanted to know what it's like to actually commit to it. And exercising that sort of vigorously every day for 10 weeks is a serious challenge. So you really do have to prioritize it for that period of time. And as you've said, and we've touched on just before, coming out of the 10-week challenge, it's about how do I turn what I've learned, and how do I turn this routine into something more sustainable, bring in some cycling, some strength work, some balance work. And it's not that you have to do that level of intensity for the rest of your life. This is the kickstart program, isn't it? So it's kind of committing to that when you're ready, as you said. And I really like your ideas. The more you put in, the more you get out. And I couldn't agree more with that.
It's a big effort to do the 10-week challenge, but yeah, it's a positive attitude when you get out of it at the end, and you can really feel it's a benefit. It is a benefit for you to do it.
Yeah, awesome. Oh, well, thanks so much, Paul, and for being so open and sharing your insights with us, mate. It's always great. I don't often get this opportunity to just have a bit more of a casual chat with the PD Warriors and the people that have gone through the challenge, because most of the time we're getting down to business, and we're working through the challenge. We're working through exercises and problem solving and stuff like that. So it's really nice, for me to have that opportunity to have a more of a casual chat with you, Paul, and obviously great to hear that it's been such a benefit for you. And so, yeah, thanks so much for joining us, Paul. And I look forward to chatting to you in the future and seeing you around your travels around the world when you get there.
Okay, thank you. And thank Melissa for my shirt.
Will do. That's a great way to end. Thanks, Paul.